guys, Michelle here from Andalery Gardens. In today's video, this is part 5. Maybe I must relook at the part numbers, but we're going to be touring the second little garden off of the strolling garden. If I pan over to that side, over there, up the pathway that's going to be in that garden. So that was the first garden, the Asian inspired garden. So the second little garden off of this pathway, I need to name this. I need to give this garden a name still. But it's going to be a garden with clipped plants or naturally rounded plants and strong form plants, sort of playing around with the linear and then the circular aspects of plants. So this is a garden like the other garden that I want to finish off and separate completely from the distance, so that you don't see like you see through now. So the pathway must wind around, and then there'll be plantings here in the foreground. These plantings here will be part of the strolling garden, but behind this planting here, there is a hibiscus there in the distance that I want to plant in front here that gets an orange flower. That will be part of the strolling garden. Behind that, just to block so you don't see through to that little garden, we're going to put some Teckemeria. I'll show you the Teckemeria. That is the Teckemeria here. You can see this is quite pretty. This is an indigenous shrub. You get it in quite a few different colors, shades of red, orange, yellow, like a golden yellow color, salmon colors. Very pretty. It takes well to cutting back and makes quite a nice solid sort of a dense hedge. It's very good for hedging. So that'll make a nice big bush, and we have a lot more of that by the production garden, which I want to move as well. So if we come up the pathway, we will have the big orange hibiscus, which will face this way towards the strolling garden, and then in this area here we'll put the yellow Teckemeria. So the pathway will come up here. It'll come up, and then from about here, then it'll span out, it'll wind around, and then it'll go off to there where Tinky is sitting in the background. So it'll run like this, and then to here. So to my left is Barleria. This does get a purple flower, so I do want to move that to the blue and purple garden. There's a whole hedge of this here. This was hectically, it was big. You could hardly see sort of over the little hedge to the plants on the other side. So I did cut that back hard, not last week. Last week was just crazy. The week before. There's another little hedge on this side. The idea was that I had a box edge. This edge on this side didn't do as well as what the hedge on the left-hand side. The hedge on here, a lot of them didn't take it. I don't think they enjoyed quite as much shade. They are happier in sun, but they can grow in shade. And then they don't like a lot of water, which is what happened here with the backwash water that runs in the trench behind there, the backwash water from the pool. So all the ones here, they died. They didn't make it. So those are all going to go to the blue and purple garden come autumn time. I don't know what that succulent is, but it's quite cool with the color. I did want to keep this garden with maybe a lot of gray foliage plants, things like in the Helichrysum family, maybe like curry bushes, that sort of things, possibly even like a salt bush that get the more grey foliage, and then also grey-green foliage, things like Westringia, things that will take well to being clipped into round shapes. And then also naturally rounded bushes like hebes, I'm not sure what else grows naturally around it, but Hebes I know grow quite naturally around it. And those all have flowers that are not in your face. They're soft, subtle flowers. So it's a confetti bush. Behind it is a hibiscus that gets pink and white flowers. But that I want to move away, as I'm feeling that is not really suited to you. And I don't want in-your-face flowers in this garden. It must be just more subtle flowers. This is a salvia. This is quite a pretty little flower, but it's not too in your face. Trying to get to where we can see it clearly. It's quite pretty. So this one, maybe I'll either clip it round or maybe into like sort of a cylinder shape, and play with rounds and cylinders, and then bringing the more linear form in with the trunk of the Duranta. That's a Duranta. I'll actually put up a video or just a before pic of what the sort of the garden looked when it was pretty overgrown before I cut back all the Barleria and the Duranta. You couldn't really see to behind there at all. So that's a big bare space behind there, which I'm going to need to do something. But maybe I thought about even just like a whole lot of like totem poles in the background in maybe more of a chartreusey color, just to help bring the linear aspect into the side of the garden. So the Duranta, I thought maybe little balls, and then these trunks, I'll lose those two features, maybe possibly put a bench with a little pathway that will run through there somehow, and then just the rounded bushes all in this area, lots of rounded bushes. Over there we've got a flax over on the right hand side, which I'll show you now, which I want to divide, and then I'll pop a piece of that here, which will maybe just cause more of a softening from the edge of that wall and then into the rest of the garden. This area here, we've got an old jacuzzi right there in the back corner, which I'd like to sort of put here under a little sort of a pergola, maybe with a pitched roof, following the same sort of line of the pool area. And then just maybe bring out the paving around the jacuzzi, and then just lots of planting around it. So the pathway will come up there with the flat part over there, with that edge there. I thought the pathway, and then this section will just all become garden all the way there, and then the pathway running here. So if we swing around, let's show you what's on the other side. There's the Barleria hedge again that needs to move. Behind that, that's a salvia. Isn't that beautiful? Look how beautiful that is. That will definitely go to the blue and purple garden. That's going to be absolutely magnificent in the blue and purple garden. It's really, really looking beautiful. I don't feel that's such a good... The flowers are so pretty, and as this is going to be more about the shape of the shrub itself, I think that's going to be better suited in the blue and purple garden. I might contemplate lavenders in this garden, purely for their grey blue foliage, but maybe white ones and not purple ones, as I'd like to keep the palette quite muted, besides a bit of bright yellow, which is in the form of these daisies. These are Euryops. They are in desperate need of a cut back, but with this kind of shrub, one cuts it back like a little bit at a time. If you cut it harshly back all in one shot, then it doesn't make it. These shrubs are also quite old already, so it might be time for new ones. But they really, without a flower or two, they've always have some form of flower on them. And then a certain time of the year, then they are full of flowers. They are beautiful. This is also an indigenous plant. So we'll just have ground cover. The ground cover in this whole garden will be the Acistacia as the seeds itself, and we'd be able to, let me sort of show a clearer picture. It's like a little foxglove. They call it a creeping foxglove. So if you clip it back, it becomes quite dense. So it'll make a nice living mulch, which will help just to smother the weeds. These window boxes along this wall, I want to keep in the goldeny tones of foliage like this. Okay, this does suffer a little bit in the sun, but it tends more towards the yellow side, the color of the foliage. And then this is also quite the yellowy color. Maybe I'll have to take a bit of cuttings and just have more so that we can fill these boxes solidly. And then you get another little succulent. I'm not sure what that is, don't know what family it is, but it gets a more golden yellow, which will be very cool to have this sort of hedge of shades of yellow. So what else is in here? There's agapanthus. They will also go, and then all these rounded bushes all over here. The agapanthus will go to the blue and purple garden. This is a Durantus, same as on the other side. So yeah, you can see what it looks like with all its foliage. That's a Duranta flower. So it's fine if the shrubs have these kind of flowers, not in your face flowers, but just sort of insignificant little flowers. And then this has got more the chartreuse color, which will help for that grey and chartreuse color theme. There's a golden Coleonyma. That's a confetti bush as well. That gets a very light pink flower. Isn't that beautiful with the sun shining on it? So this is the flax that I want to divide and put a corner on the end where the wall meets the garden, and have one piece this side, one piece that side, just to frame the entrance. This entrance goes through to the blue and purple garden. So we've got things like, here's a rosemary bush, but this has been here many years, and I think it's sort of time to replace it. But maybe I'll keep another rosemary bush here, as they will also take well to clipping in a round form. Or maybe I'll rather keep it in the blue and purple garden. That is Vinca. I'm not sure what Vinca it is, if it's Vinca major or Vinca minor. I don't know which one it is, but yeah, that's quite cool. That gets a purple flower, so that'll also go to the blue and purple garden, so that we can keep this more consistent with the Acistacia growing. Yeah, that'll be nice under the shade of a tree in the blue and purple garden as well. My trusty companion Butchie boy. Our garden dogs. So if I pan you around, okay, that bush at the back there, that is I think, is it a pyracantha? It gets a white flower, and then these beautiful yellow berries. So this is a nice framing through to the sun's actually in a very bad place now. Nice framing through to the blue and purple garden. So if I back up out of this path, I would have to move that one to in front of the other flax when we plant that over here, as the bird baths just kind of lead you up the pathway. So they will call you up the pathway, this one and then that one, and then maybe one over here, and then you see the one in the background and that one over there if we come slightly. So that was the idea with the bird baths, is that it helps to lead your eye. The linear aspect is brought in with like the poles there. I do need to put some form of top on there. I don't want to plant anything so that I don't lose the structuralness of the poles. And then Structuralness is also brought in the shape of like the trees. This is a magnolia tree. This is actually so beautiful. It's like a great big lollipop with a big rounded head, and then that stem which brings that linearness in again. We've got this pole here to bring the linears. That's a dragon palm. That's again bringing in the linearness, and there's another pole there. That's a palm in the background there. That's sort of where the leaves were, the old leaves were cut off. That also brings like a kind of a very structural, almost like a lattice work effect, which kind of, yeah, it talks to me. So that's a, oh, what is that? I've forgotten the name. It gets a beautiful purple flower, but it's more a climber, so I don't know if it's the right space for it, but I want to take some cuttings and see that we can have some of it growing before attempting to maybe relocate it to the strolling garden. So this is the orange hibiscus here that will go to the front side by the Teckumaria. That will form part of the strolling garden. That gets a magnificent orange flower. Now I don't want hibiscus flowers in here because I feel the flower is too big and in your face for this particular garden. The flower is beautiful, make no mistake, but not for this particular garden, just to keep a theme going, so that as you walk through the garden and go into the different gardens, each garden will be different from the next garden. That's a cistus. It gets a little white flower with a yellow. They call it a fried egg, so picture a fried egg. And that we'll just clip round so that it hugs the tree and makes these round balls by the tree. I might move that patio with the angel just to further over there somewhere. Those are agaves. Those might stay here as they do bring the very structuralness in. But if I lose these two, especially with bringing the bird bath to the foreground, and then just have some rounded low bushes here in the front. So we just have lots of these rounded little bushes. It'll be very cool. I can just visualize everything. I can see the picture so clearly, because it's just to bring it now into reality, if I can put it that way. Let me show you that. That is beautiful. This I might move elsewhere. This dies down and then comes back up. It's a bulb. It's also an indigenous plant. It's called Gloriosa. I think it's got another name onto it, but I can't think what the other name is. Isn't that beautiful? I'm trying to get it out of the sun there. Look at that. Absolutely exquisite. But just look at the whole plant. Look how the leaves sort of kind of curl on the end. It's so, actually it's a beautiful, it's just a beautiful plant. It does need a little structure to climb up, so where it is now is not really ideal, but yes, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. That's hen and chicken underneath there. I might leave that. That does bring a bit of the linearness in. This palm tree is also very good for a good structural plant. As this gets bigger, obviously in years to come it's going to be huge, and you're not going to see any of this unless you're looking high up in the sky. But for now, this is what we're seeing, and then down the line, when it is big, we'll have another linear trunk going up, which is going to be cool, just to carry that whole linear theme through. Then we'll just have lots of ground cover, lots of Aciostacea all the way here. Maybe one or two more very structural form plants in the front. As the pathway comes there and then comes out here, maybe we'll put like a ponytail palm somewhere there, just to bring a bit of boldness and structure in to this side, because currently there's no really linear structural plants on this side. So I will need to look at at that. So the Teckemeria will come here, in front here. I do have an Abelia. That plant there is something I moved a good few videos ago. It's a cassia, but I don't think it's made. It's got no sign of life. So maybe I might just remove that and then put the Abelia here. Or maybe I'll leave it a bit longer and see. You never know. Maybe something sprouts from the bottom. So behind that shrub, well, obviously that's going to be part of the strolling garden on that side. Behind the ditch over here that takes the backwash water, I want to put we got a Banksia rose, a big Banksia rose behind the yellow confetti bush, the golden one, which has sent off like an offshoot, a sucker. So we'll dig up the sucker and then we'll plant that there, as that will be good for part of the strolling garden as well as part of this garden. It gets a very soft yellow flower, so it'll be perfect, especially when this gets taller and it's just stem, as you will see through to that side then. So let's take you up here and show you just what's happening here around the pool area. There's things like the paving is not very even. That's things that need doing, but the garden is my focus because that I can manage. Things like paving and that's not my forte, the more structural, technical things. So that's going to require more of a thought process. But yeah, that is things that need doing. This wall we need to plant in this, plant in the bottom, plant in the top. So it's also to consider, does one want the same thing along the whole length of the wall? You have to consider it's part sun and then part shade as one gets underneath here. So it's to find something that's happy in both sun and shade. That's the jacuzzi that I was talking about. Yeah, this area is untidy, very untidy. So this is something we'll address in other videos when we get to making things look prettier. Lots of plants. Some of these were Clary's that she didn't want in her room anymore, as she wanted to simplify things and not keep it so cluttered. So they're going to be, well, we'll have a nice lot of pots, yeah, a few lot of pots with these plants. Yeah, maybe some of these we'll use in the tropical garden down the line, especially the cordyceps. Yeah, there's the cane furniture, but even that is in need of, but that's all things, as this video is very much about bringing things to their full potential. So it is a process, it's a lengthy process. Things don't happen overnight. One also uses, with certain things where we can, we use what we have. And then other things, obviously, like when it would come to this kind of thing, would wait until there's funds available, and that requires people, specialized people to upholster and things like that. So you can see there's clutter like bricks where I wanted to extend out here, but then we need to do it properly with crusher run underneath, that kind of thing. Pots that we need to move away, more pots that we need to home, and then this just goes into the back here with just like a little gravelled area. This might be a nice area if I want to keep some bonsais, just to have a couple of shelves of bonsais. And then if we come to this side, the pool is very low. There's a major leak somewhere. Let me show you that area there. I need to plant something in there, maybe lose that vase. There was something planted in there a long time ago, but I wasn't as involved in the garden in those days. The garden always spoke to me, but I was never involved like I am nowadays. So my ball was not rolling in those days. That needs fixing. So the pool has a big leak. The water just goes away slowly. And that's pretty there, but I might change that and lose that yin yang sign and maybe just more mosaic it with pebbles. I'd like to change this whole area so that it feels more Moroccan and not this sort of Japanese feel, as the garden with all the clipped hedges and the structural shapes is going to feel more on the Mediterranean side of things. So you can see things like this. We need to address this over here. So these screens maybe down the line, lose all the wood but keep the screens, and then maybe stencil it to sort of more Moroccan kind of patterns, but in very natural colors. So that's sort of the idea there. This area is very cluttered, very untidy. We do need to tackle this, but one step at a time. That's the pump house. You can see that's crazy untidy, so maybe that's another thing we can look at in another video. Yeah, very untidy. This is the Banksia rose that I was telling you about. It's beautiful when it has its flowers. There's lots of things that have self-seeded. That is wisteria, and wisteria does not need a second invitation. There's things like this is Valeria, which also seeds itself everywhere. There with the little blue flowers is the Wandering Jew, also doesn't need any second invitation. But in a garden of this size, things like that are good, as they help to cover ground. So one uses them to cover the vast areas. That little pathway just leads up to where the backwash water is checked in that vase over there. Now there is lots of these pavers here. I haven't opened them. There you can see there's 2 exposed over there. Now there was a whole lot of different size round pavers, but I felt like it's too much with that here and then the different path on the other side. So I do want to lift up all these pavers and just leave the Asostasia to grow the whole way through, just so that one's eyes not drawn to this area. So I think we've pretty much looked at this whole little section of garden yet to be named. So I want to say thank you guys for watching. I realize some of the videos, there's not always pretty garden to be seen, and a lot of it is just very much gardens in process. But the channel is about bringing things to its full potential, so you're going to see a lot of me moving things around, and hopefully these tours, when we look next year, we can see sort of some kind of improvement, or through the years we'll be able to look back at this video from 2025 versus 2027 and just see how things have changed and grown and evolved, as that's very much what gardening is about. Everything is in a constant state of evolving. It's, yeah, things are changing all the time, and you tweak it and you tweak it until it feels right. Well, at least that is the process for me. That is how I feel. But thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Go well and God bless. Bye guys.